On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, the Gwinn-Bushmaster returns, new caseless ammo tech, the Type 100 Nambu, and will FRTs finally kill belt-fed semi-autos? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Mongo and Marky, and this is episode 394 of the John 1911 podcast. Today is Monday, February the 2nd at 12:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's afternoon for me, and I believe it's still morning for Mongo. And just as a warning, actually to Mongo, he doesn't know this yet either. I'm in the office today, and we're apparently having some heater issues over in the building. I pulled in to HVAC people here, and they claimed, like, I went down there and looked, and there was flame shooting out of one of these units. And I asked them, "Is that safe?" And they're telling me, "Well, not really." So I wouldn't be at all surprised if they're shutting off the power to the building, and they actually may ask us to evacuate. So this may be the last business endeavor from the office today, John 1911, right before we get 5 more inches of snow today and tonight after getting 14 inches of snow last week. So good times. So anyway, Mongo, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I think the big thing in the room is why nobody shot Puxatawny Phil.
Wait a minute. I thought I don't remember which way it goes, but I thought the little rodent said that we're going to have less of a winter.
No,
isn't that right?
6 more weeks, according to the news this morning.
Oh, I literally saw the exact opposite. This is how out of control the news is. So,
well, I may be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. This is the one day every year where we all think of Bill Murray in that movie. Other than that, it's like whatever.
I love that movie.
That is a good movie. I will admit it is a good movie. I don't watch too much television, but I did see that some years ago. So, did that movie come out in the 80s or was that in the 2000s?
I think it was in the 90s.
90s? Okay. Yeah, I think I saw it.
Been a long time.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, so wait a minute. For the listener at home, like, don't tell me exactly where you are. I can't remember. Are you in Texas?
Yeah, I'm in Texas, Houston area.
Houston. Oh boy. Ooh. I saw a guy. Just incidentally, I saw a guy on the internet yesterday, and he's in Houston, and he was advising people. He says if you are out driving and a fully tinted, what do you call it, Charger or fully tinted vehicle pulls up next to you with no license plates, you better watch out because they're up to no good or something. And it was like he was going on. I think the guy was an attorney. And it was like, what the hell is going on in Houston? He was talking about Houston.
Yeah. So, as an attorney, I guess you're likely to be shot anytime anyway. But yeah.
So
I haven't heard anything along those lines. I don't know.
Houston is huge. I mean, I don't think the average person is Houston still considered the largest city in America?
Square foot wise or acre wise or whatever. I don't know.
I
think we're 4th population wise though.
Yeah, but I remember from like one side to this was in the 90s, from one side to the other, from border to border, it was like 90 some miles. Is that right?
Yeah, it's typically a 2-hour drive given traffic.
Yeah, 90. Yeah, it's a huge town. So
yeah, people are like, so-and-so from Houston. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, Houston is so big, it's probably like New York. There's so many different little universes.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, it's like, like a Chinese person, like, yeah, do you know so-and-so? It's like,
Houston's like the blob. It goes out and reaches and grabs little towns around it and makes them part of Houston, and they regret it.
Does it still do that? Is it still expanding?
Yeah, lately. I mean, I think the last thing they annexed was Kingwood, which is a major section northeast of Houston, which, they really hated that because all their water prices like quadrupled and everything, all their services and everything went downhill. So they weren't happy about it.
Didn't they have to vote for that?
Well, you got all of Houston votes for doing it to Kingwood Kingwood didn't have much of a say.
Oh, I didn't know it worked. I thought the people of Kingwood had to vote for it.
Well, they weren't incorporated. That was their problem. They should have incorporated to keep them from being swallowed by Houston. I believe that was the case.
Oh, wow. So, that sounds terrible. So,
yeah, I got some friends that live in Kingwood, and a couple of them left. Others have just grumbled.
Has it hurt property values and all that, and it affect the taxes and everything?
Not really, but yeah, it jacks taxes up a little bit. Taxes are typically done countywide, not necessarily city. So anything in Harris County gets hit by the same taxes that Houston swallows up.
Okay. Yeah, that's the way it is here too. I mean, the city of Cincinnati puts on an extra income tax, and their bureaucracy and all that's a nightmare. But they it's basically county taxes.
Well, thankfully, we don't have any income tax in Texas.
Yeah, but don't you have like a 12% sales tax or something? What is it?
8.25%.
8.25%. Oh, hell, we're almost 7 here. Like, I thought it was like 12, and then because I know there's a push in Ohio to try to get over. I guess Vivek Ramaswamy. Am I saying his last name right? Ramaswamy, yeah. Or is it Ravaswamy?
Oh, don't get me. I'm an American. I can't pronounce shit.
He's pushing like the no income tax in Ohio because I think they're all trying to copy DeSantis in Florida, and I was like, that would be interesting because they have to go to an all sales tax, which encompasses everybody.
Well,
that's the one thing about
there's property tax too, and Texas does suffer from property tax burden.
Yeah, we have high in Ohio. We have very high. This is like the tax episode, and then we'll get off and we'll get the guns. In Ohio, we have high income tax. We have, in my opinion, fairly high sales tax, at least in the metro Cincinnati area, to pay for all these stupid stadiums. We have an inheritance tax that I think gets people, and then we have very high property taxes in Ohio, extremely high. A lot of people don't realize that. Like it's burdensome. People that go to Florida and they complain about running into a lot of people from New York. One of the other jokes is if you're down in the Naples area and Sarasota, you run into a lot of people from Ohio and Cincinnati, and there's a very specific reason for that. And it doesn't all have to do with the snow and the cold weather. A lot of it is as people get to be older, they're like, especially if they've made any money, they're like, I got to get the hell out of here because they're going to hammer the shit out of me as I get older if I pass. So people flee for the tax issues, and it's a huge problem for Ohio.
My father lives in Naples.
Well, see, there you go. So I love Naples, dude. I love Naples.
I've yet to have been there. I have not been there yet.
I was I was down there for some kind of business thing, and I went to this Italian restaurant. I guess it was when I went to Naples, it wasn't busy, so it must not have been in season. Because again, I was there working, but they took me to this Italian restaurant. I got to sit up on the second floor overlooking the street. The restaurant was hopping because I think it was like the only thing happening in Naples. And I think it was south of Naples. And man, I'll tell you what, it was one of the best restaurant experiences I have ever had. I'll have to look it up. Like if I ever make it back there, I want to go there. Well, and if you ever go to Naples and I'm there, we'll take you out to dinner. So, all right, let's get off taxes and rich people talk. Let's talk about Stoner 63. That helps. I'm kidding. Did you see anything at SHOT Show that piqued your interest, or are you so jaded at this point you're just like, yeah, whatever? Like,
no, every year I see stuff that interests me that sometimes doesn't interest anyone else because I'm looking at the engineer aspects of some of the stuff. But I thought there was a good variety this year across the board of some neat items. Of course, there was AR-15. I don't know, what do you call it? Tiredness of AR-15 still going on with me when I see all that.
The AR reproduction stuff from Palmetto State Armory, like a lot of the Vietnam
the retro
era
stuff doesn't bother me. It's just how many different ways can we make a handguard on an AR-15 and sell it to the public?
Yeah.
That's what drives me nuts. How much shit can we bolt to an AR-15 and call it new?
Yeah, I think even T-Rex Arms is kind of going that route. Or not T-Rex Arms, the kid, he's 30 now. I remember when he was a teenager. The Lucas Bodkin, he left that holster company and his family and started his own business. And so I guess he's not doing anything with handguns, which is probably smart from a liability standpoint. From a business liability standpoint, because there could be a conflict because he still has ownership stake in the holster company. So he's the first product I think they're doing. I think they're doing slings, which is fine. It's easy. And they're doing some kind of handguard for an AR. Yeah, and it's like, well, okay, it's pretty easy too. I mean, I think the shtick was it doesn't get hot. Maybe that might be the thing. It doesn't get hot.
I will say the different mounting methods for the handguards can be quite engineering intensive in the design side, but I don't know. To me, it's the different shapes that evolved over the years and everything else to, from putting rails on everything to shelving components. And then now we got M-LOK these days. So
do you think M-LOK is going to stay as the standard, or do you think eventually someone's going to replace that, like what Q was trying to do? Doesn't Q have their own little?
Yeah, they have like a modified M-LOK type thing. I watched one deal on it and I can't remember it now. I remember Kevin Brittingham mentioning some of the features of it, but I can't name one of them off the top of my head, other than it was reverse compatible with M-LOK, I believe.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. I don't remember.
I believe it was.
So you had posted something on the website, and I had missed this. And, quote, this is you talking. Something that was buried in the basement at the SHOT Show was the Blecher Brash Zero caseless bullpup rifle.
Right. I've made a list here so we can, so I remember everything I liked.
And it's like, it obviously has some drawbacks outlined in the description, but I would love to see how they are designing this. So this, I mean, it looks like a box with a handle on it.
Right. I wouldn't say aesthetics to it was very good.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, I'm sure it's a proof of concept, obviously, to start with. So they basically are designing around the mechanism at this point before they get to any aesthetics. Is this a
5.56 or is this some kind of custom ammo?
It's 5.56. And what they were, according to the claim in the Firearms Blog article on it, because nobody else that I could find on YouTube or any other article described this thing, but they were talking about that they basically took a 5.56 round without the brass case. So you had a primer, you had powder, and you had a bullet. And somehow they shoved that into a magazine that fed that into the gun as 3 components. And those 3 components would be fired in a method. So to me, that I was interested in how they managed to do that. And accordingly, the article said that there wasn't a chance of cook-off because the powder wasn't introduced until somebody pulled the trigger. That tells me that it's semi kind of open boltish, where you don't have a hot chamber holding that powder. Because, your brass case is going to give you some heat sink ability and some warm-up time to keep powder from cooking off. Yeah. But if you put powder directly into a chamber that's hot already, it's more likely to go quick. But I'm wondering how they so you're taking a primer and you're taking some powder. So let's assume the powder's maybe some sort of hopper fed, and then bullets, you think, all right, I can make a little magazine for bullets. But even the primers, you can make a little magazine, but intercepting all those out of one magazine, that's got to be interesting. I'd love to see the design of that and how they did that.
So wait a minute. So I think for the listener, because I'm trying to keep up with you. So you're saying, do you know this is a hopper system, or are you assuming it's a hopper system?
I'm assuming it's a hopper system because they basically said it was loose powder.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. So, or they implied it very, very much in that article. But they implied that each of the components were basically separate, and they somehow were combined to fire the bullet out of the barrel.
Wow.
So, yeah. Now, of course, it had a lot of limitations where you couldn't take the magazine out of the gun because it was a sealed magazine, and when you put it in the gun, it unsealed it. But if the magazine was still partially full and you yank it out of that gun, you can no longer stick it back in that gun, apparently. So that tells me, once again, that was probably a hopper. When you yanked it back out, that hopper probably dumped it when you tilted the magazine in any other direction.
So, but you could stick a fresh magazine in?
Right. It's a sealed.
Unseal?
Yeah, they talk about it being a sealed item. So it probably has some sort of, I don't know, plastic or something, cellophane type cover on maybe the hopper that is cut when it's put into the gun. I'm speculating, Of course. I don't know exactly.
Do you know
what
if they said that this was proprietary stuff they had invented? Do they own the technical patents on this?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I am sure they wouldn't show any of this unless they had either got patents filed right now of some sort, or at least some sort of trade dress.
Provisional.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure they were showing it at SHOT to get someone that was interested in maybe taking this type of technology and using it further.
Yeah. Because as a business person, my first gut instinct is the real value here is in the technology patent that you can now sell to a major company.
I think that's what they were looking for. They were looking for somebody to say, "Hey, we'll buy your patents, give you nice money for it, and then we'll use it." But as I say, if you're going out on the public market or even the military, you're going to have to address some of the issues that were mentioned in the article to start with. You're not going to they said the magazines could only be reloaded at the armorer's level. So that means they probably need to be sealed again, and that seal was broken. So, people at home your civilians aren't going to, unless they're, I guess, have more knowledge, are going to be able to seal up everything and put it back into the magazine. So you're basically having to reload a magazine like reloading cased ammo.
Yeah, that's interesting though. But you could definitely see applications for that where that would be beneficial, maybe on drones.
Right. Yeah.
Or or even remote, or like, I guess, a flying drone from a weight perspective and size perspective, because if you're eliminating all that extra case, and then on a ground-based drone, like whatever, like what do you call it? What would you call a autonomous, remote-controlled ground fighting robot thing?
Terminator?
You could just Terminator. I guess you could just, make giant magazines for it. You know what I mean? Or make, 2 or 3 where if one goes sideways, it just switches to the next magazine. And it's got a horrendous amount of firepower in it. That's interesting technology.
But does it offer more than a brass cased round, your typical brass case round at this point? And that's,
I think for the average
is the main thing.
Yeah, for the average infantryman, I think the answer would be no. And actually, this, but I'll say it for the benefit of the listener. That brass case does a lot of good for you.
Oh, it's a good heat conduit.
Yeah, it pulls a lot of heat out of that gun. And if you don't have that brass or steel pulling that heat out of that gun heats up super fast to the point where it doesn't work.
Right, or it cooks off, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think, also one of the issues with the polymer rounds.
Right. all the caseless guns that have been designed and tried over the years, always an issue is you have a hot chamber, especially on a machine gun, obviously. You have a hot chamber, you shove the round in there. If you don't fire it immediately, well, if all that powder is contained in a polymer matrix, that polymer starts melting to the chamber. And then it still can ignite, or getting it back out can always be hard as well. Of course, the HK G11. Supposedly they solved that by making that rotating chamber, but of course that thing was a cuckoo clock inside. So
yeah, that's to me. I mean, I'm sure that you are super interested in the G11, but for like average people like me, I just look at that and go, that's a wreck. Like it just, I don't want any part of that thing. Just the idea of clearing malfunctions out of it, and that ammo that's also like pressed together like sawdust. If it breaks, how do you clear? I mean, just it just seems like a nightmare to me, and I mean, how do you fall down and half your ammo breaks? Like, I just don't even like, I mean, like there's all these situations.
That ammo was fairly tough that they had come up with.
I
have never felt one of the rounds though, but
yeah, but you know what? That's something that people say because they've never actually seen one.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like a good idea. Like, oh, well, this would just work for this just fine. And it's solved. And then you actually get out in the real world and it's like, no, it's not solved. And it's so cumbersome. It's not, the payoff isn't worth the whatever. So do you know if this Blecher company was selling these guns, or was it just a prototype they were looking for?
I don't know. As I say, all I got was from that firearms blog article that they had on it, which was two pictures and a blurb on it. But
yeah, I saw
no one else apparently. They were in the basement a shot, and apparently nobody else made it down there to see what they were doing.
They wrestled one of the PFB people to the ground. They're like, "You got to come over here."
Well, you got to give it to the firearm blog. They did hit them, and they found this new technology, or this company with this new technology, and they reported on it, which was past what 99% of the people were there who obviously walked past it. I mean, granted, the gun's ugly as sin, but
dude, it is. I mean, it is ugly. It is we'll have a picture of it on the web in the comment section. But dude, that is one ugly ass gun. Like, there's people that subscribe to the whole theory that anything you design has to at least be good looking. It's got to be so it can be cool, so to be adopted. This does not look cool at all.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, this thing looks like, I don't know, a couple skinny Nintendo boxes bolted together or something. Like, it's crazy looking. So,
well, it does look like something that someone who knows nothing about guns designed for some sci-fi movie.
and I mean, in the defense of the idea of the new idea person, like the idea, I keep using the word idea too much. Somebody who comes in with a new set of eyes in solving a problem, like Gaston Glock. He just did stuff.
Well,
like
I've had this discussion with other engineers in the industry before, and Gaston Glock didn't have anything unique about his designs. I mean, he basically did things everyone else did, but he put them together in such a way that it was a reliable package at a reasonable price. Mm-hmm. I mean, the polymer frame had been done by HK with the VP70.
Yeah.
And then standard lockup, it's just a Browning lockup, so there's nothing different there. Magazine is still metal underneath that plastic. So there's nothing really new to that, his design or anything, but it's a good, I guess his trigger is slightly new, where the little dongle on the trigger keeps you from discharging unless you're trying to reholster it with a finger.
You think he invented the trigger blade? I don't even think he invented that, did he?
I don't know. Tell you the truth, I have no idea on that one. I don't remember seeing it before, though.
Yeah, in many ways, a Glock is a lot like Apple, and that's going to always cause ass hurt. with some people. But, Apple doesn't normally do stuff first. They just perfect they wait to see what kind of works and what doesn't, and then they come out with it last and try to make it, as best they can for them. And I think the argument that you're making kind of describes Glock and Apple in the same way. Objectively speaking, anybody can look at, all these crazy Google phones, and they do all kinds of stuff years before Apple does it. Once Apple kind of does it, they kind of worked out the technology. So,
But, like HK, as I said, they did the first polymer frame type stuff. As far as I know, they're the first. But, of course, they pretty much abandoned it. Well, Glock came back, and I think he was from the plastics industry to start with. So
yeah, I think he did curtain rods.
Oh, okay. So he knew injection molding and stuff, and to his credit, he came up with a very reliable design right off the bat and managed to win the contract for the trials for that pistol for Austria. So, and then eventually everyone else in the world too, except for the U.S. military, which for some reason didn't adopt it because for some reason he didn't want to put a safety on it.
Well,
that's the story.
They did know Glock has made guns with safeties, external safeties. Besides that, they're you see them in Europe, like they'll RFP them, and and in the U.S. military's defense, Delta Force or whatever they're called this week, they went the Glock fairly early. They pretty much.
Well, yeah, but they can pretty much buy whatever they can sneak onto the books.
Yeah, but they also, they can buy whatever they want, but they also dump whatever they want.
True,
people you look at the way Delta Force picked up the 2011 and then very quickly dropped the 2011. They dropped that gun so fast. And everybody, I think they were para-ordnance guns, and everybody today is like, these guns are desirable because they were surplused out by para-ordnance and whatever. But people kind of forget the reality is it was a failure. It was so bad, Delta Force puked that gun out. They were like, we don't want this fucking thing. Like it was not good. And, they ran with the Glock. I feel like the Delta guys, to their credit, they will run. They tend to run stuff pretty hard. So if there's going to be problems or they want improvements or whether it's not going to hold up, they dump it. In business, we would call that they fail quickly. They'll try all kinds of crazy stuff, and if it's not working, they will drop it like a bad habit. So,
well, if you think about it, when the Glock came out, what were the arms in use at that time? You had a 1911 for the military, or the Beretta.
Mm-hmm.
And all the police units had revolvers or Smith & Wesson autos.
Smith & Wessons, yeah. You saw the occasional high power, but not really.
Yeah, not many.
Like some gun guy had a high power, but yeah.
Well, it's like, what was it, the Indiana or the Illinois police had HK P7s? P8s, P7s.
Probably the piece. You mean the squeeze cocker?
P7, yeah, the squeeze cocker, yeah.
The squeeze cocker. I have a squeeze. Have you ever heard my squeeze? I've referenced it on the website in the past. Have you ever heard my P7 story with the police department?
No.
So I used to work at this place, and they're trained all kinds of people. They had civilians, they had government types, contractor types, police departments. They would do state. They had some Fed people come in. Sometimes they would come as groups. Sometimes they would come as individuals. And what would happen is a lot of times you would have these police departments that would build a relationship with this company, and they would send their officers to go train with us. And we have a new officer, whatever, it's in the budget. We're going to send 2 officers this week to come train with you guys. And so whatever this is going on, and I can't remember what time of year it was. And there's a female, and I'm a bigger person, so most females are smaller than me. So she seems small to me, but she's got her duty belt and whatever. And she's not like, Doesn't look like she's not qualified to be a cop. I mean, she's a female. She's not qualified to punch Mike Tyson, but I mean, she's young and athletic and whatever. And she's got her duty belt and her duty gun, and we're pretty high round count facility. Very, very high round count. That kind of informs kind of even how I operate now, because we're just a very high round count philosophical approach to firearms. And like, it would be nothing to do over 1,000 rounds, I mean, in just a couple of days. Like, that would be common. And while that may not seem like a lot to some people, but if you're doing instruction, then running drills and demos and instruction and drills and demos and instruction, you're going through 500, 600 rounds, like you could do 1,800 rounds in 3 or 4 days.
Right.
It's like you had to bring that much ammo. And so she's got this gun, and it turns out it's one of these H&K P7 squeeze cocker guns. And I knew what the gun was, but not really. Like, if you had asked me, like, oh, gas with a piston blowback, like, I have no fucking idea. And we're going through the whole cycles of the instruction, demo, drill cycle, and other instructors are doing it. And this girl just happens to be near me, and I'm looking at it, and she's got ice, like, in her hand. She's holding ice, and then she's putting ice on the grip of her gun. And it just happened because I noticed, and the reason it caught my attention is because her gun isn't in a holster, which is kind of like one of our things where it's like, ooh, wait, what's going on here? And so she's kind of going up to the line, and she's putting ice. I thought she was injured. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? She's like, oh, my gun is just so hot. The guns we run, they get hot. Like, every gun gets hot. People get cut. People get burned. Shit is hot. Like, fine. But she's having issues. And I'm like, oh, let me see the gun. And she's holding the gun. She hands me the gun. It was so hot, I literally dropped the fucking gun. And she'd been holding it. And I was like, what the fuck? I couldn't believe how fucking hot this gun was. And what it basically boiled down to was, at her police department, and subsequently, I do know what police department, like, I'm not trying to shit on people that I know, but this was a fuck up and a half. Somebody at this police department who's a gun guy decided, I'm going to be Mr. Cool, and I'm going to talk my chief or command staff or city, and we're going to buy these P7s because, 1, they're cool, 2, I'm a gun guy, 3, I'm going to make this argument that if somebody does a gun grab, they're not going to know what to do with the gun, and it'll give us a few seconds to beat their brains out before they can shoot us with our own gun. That was always the argument for the P7. And
yes. I think they credit one officer with a save because of that.
Well, but they also, what ultimately ended up dooming the gun was they had situations where they had sympathetic discharges because you have to squeeze the gun with your hand, with your right. So let's say you're right-handed shooter, you're squeezing the gun with your right hand to cock the gun to pull the trigger. And most people, it becomes like this automatic what they're trying to do. And so they have situations
index finger squeeze. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then you get people where you're in a situation where you've got a gun in one hand and you're trying to open a door with the other, or you're grabbing somebody's arm and you're trying to, because you're like, motherfucker, come here, then like you're going to put your gun away. But the reality is you're closing your left hand, grabbing something. And they've proven this a lot of times. People, they close one hand, they tend to want to close the other hand. And there's been at least one documented case where they had a negligent discharge of a P7 into somebody because there was that, I can't remember, they had a term for it back then. And basically they figured out, like, this is not a good situation, and the P7 got dumped. But this girl was fucked by this gun. She was so fucked. She didn't learn shit. We ended up having to pull the gun from her and have to give her like a Glock or like one of our loaner guns. And it's like, so, okay, so she's there for a week or whatever it is, 4 days in her duty belt and her duty equipment, but she's not carrying a duty gun and she's not carrying duty magazines. And, we had to change out the fucking holster. Like the whole fucking thing was a shit show. Because some guy who's, quote, a gun guy decides I'm going to be special or I'm cool or I like H&K. For whatever reason, this person came up with it. Instead of, tried and true and doing what's best for people, they end up fucking this girl. And it makes you – and then you're saying to yourself, wait a minute. How many other officers have come from this department, have gone through actual – high round count trainings? They want to spend the money. Like, to their credit, they're like, we want our officers to be, if there's going to be a gunfight on the street, we want our officer to win. If there's going to be a problem on the street, our officer is going to be the best in that gunfight situation. It's going to be our officer that's going to win. Our officer that has the most experience, our officer that has the best tactics, because we just want to spend the money. But still, even then, you bought these expensive P7 guns because you're cool and you just fucked everybody. I hate that fucking gun. I like them. I want one. We don't own one. I want one. They're cool. And, they're cool to carry because they're thin. But, some of these dudes on the internet, just because something's cool doesn't mean it's any good or it's fit for purpose, as they say in the UK. And, it's like, that gun's retarded.
Well, there's a reason why nobody's adopted it nowadays, or why it went out of production.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I'll say this: that maybe if I had an editor, it's like we could clip this. The HK-P7 is the original P320. That's going to get people fucking talking, because the reality is there were people that were hurt by P7s because of the squeezing it to cock it and pulling the trigger, and then people they're opening and closing and grabbing things with the other hand. And there was, I don't remember the specifics because it's been 30 years. It's been, what's 2026? It's been about 30 years, maybe 25, like at the tail end of these guns. But there were enough incidents very quickly that gun disappeared out of law enforcement service, because it was like, a word got out. If you have an accidental shooting, there's going to be someone's going to dig up, it turns out it wasn't a justified shooting. You shot my client because you did some bullshit and you're trying to say it was justified shooting. And that's it. Just anytime there's an issue with a gun like that, automatically the other side's going to muddy the waters. And yeah,
the real question is, will a P320 ever be worth $3,000 in any place other than court?
Well, I think in one case a P320 was worth what, $20 million, or was it like $12 million? There you go. Dude, see, I thought that I was going to have the best quote of the podcast, and you just like sly rolling here with like, well, the real question is a V320 ever going to be worth $12 million? So, well, I'll tell you what.
There's the podcast headline right there.
Yeah, the real value of the P320. So after because I published some stuff on the last podcast, I did a solo pod. And somebody rolled in, or I don't know, I found this later. Somebody's reproducing the original OG Bushmaster Gwinn rifle. Have you seen that?
No. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I did see it. I take it back. I did see that.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I'll tell you what, that's cool. Like, I've got one of those guns. And if I didn't have one, I would absolutely buy that. What a great thing. I don't know if I'd buy one of those little bullpup pistol things, but I was like, man, I love some of this. I like a lot of this retro stuff. People are trying to,
That's because you're like me. You used to go to gun shows back in the 80s and 90s and saw shit like this and said, man, I wish I had money to buy that.
Oh yeah. I was going to gun shows as like probably 8 years old. So I mean, my first gun show was in the '70s. So machine guns were available. I was going to gun shows and there were machine guns, and it's like, oh, when I get to be old enough, I'm gonna have me a machine gun. And just as I got into high school, they took the machine guns away, and I'm like, oh fuck. What do you mean? Like, I remember watching the news and they're like, oh yeah, the machine guns are going away. It's a countdown to whatever. And I remember thinking, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I think I was 15. I'm like, yo, what do you mean the machine guns are going away? It's like, that was the Hughes Amendment. So
I went to a Houston gun show, and there's this guy sitting at this one table with nothing on it except one gun. And I'm still a nub on guns, but I knew machine guns and I was interested in them. So we go up to this guy, and he's got an FG-42 second model sitting on this table in front of him.
Holy cow.
And that's the only thing he's got there. And we're talking to him, and he goes, yeah, he's selling that gun. He rented that table just to sell that one gun. And we're like, well, how much is it? And he's $20,000. And
oh yeah.
And at that time, $20,000 to me, I was a brand new engineer. I was making not too much more than 20 grand a year. And there it is. And I'm like, oh man, that's such cool. And he let us handle it and everything. He was a nice guy, but damn, then I think, what was it? A couple of years ago, 400 and something $1,000 that same gun sold for.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Do you know how many FG-42s are on the registry?
I have no idea, but there is not that many. And I think there's a couple people that own most of them.
Really there's people nice that have more than one?
Oh, there's one collector that has all the models pretty much of all the intermediate models and everything.
Why isn't he on this podcast? Why aren't you jacking him in? I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. I'm putting an idea in your head. Just
unfortunately, I don't even know the gentleman.
Oh, likely story. Yeah, I feel like you're.
I would be willing to be adopted.
I feel like this is like one of the things in the nightclub where like you're in the bottle section with the hot girls and all the money, and I'm standing on the floor going, sorry, can't let you in, Marky. Like this is VIP only. Yeah, we don't know. I don't know how this works. And sorry, can't get up here. It's full. It's like fire code. It's like, okay, all right. Sure thing, Mongo. Sure thing. Sure. So, anything else from shop that you saw that might be?
Well, as I say, I got a little list here, so let me quickly go through a couple of them. I'll say that what I did find neat. This is kind of a sideline. It's not necessarily I'm really interested in this gun, but Gearhead Guns is a guy that is on one of the gun building forums, and one day he decided he wanted a Type 100 Nambu submachine gun.
I saw that guy.
And the name he's received from the interview is pretty funny, but I won't go into that. But
I haven't heard that. I don't even know what you're talking about.
But he set out to build one for himself, a semi-auto version of it. Mm-hmm. And it has led to what I thought was neat, which his little hobby has led to manufacturing these and is going to take orders and sell them. So I just thought that was pretty neat.
Did you get an idea what he thought the price was going to be?
I was not that interested in the gun, so I never even looked.
Oh, okay. So you wouldn't buy like a repop, like
the Type 100 Nambu never really interested me that much. So a repop of it. I think he's doing it in 7.62 by 25, which Tokarev. He's using PPSH 43 mags.
Oh, that's right. What caliber is the original Type 100?
It's 8mm Nambu.
Oh, okay.
So it's straight. You'd have to reload for the original, pretty much.
Yeah.
CZ, of course, brought out their CZ75 Legend, which I'd been looking for one of the original CZ75 early guns, and they're almost unattainium. And what's the difference between an original CZ and like one that's out now? Like they're everywhere.
Like,
Right.
because I didn't understand that. You were like, "Oh my God, original CZ," and I'm like, well, "Okay, what's the difference?" I mean, I'm sure there is, but I just don't know.
Well, there's some changes in the way the frame and slide are made. The gun is narrower in the front. It's a not much lighter. It's a lighter gun, and it feels like a lighter gun when you handle one of them. And to me, it looks sleeker as well. But the difference they did with this, with their, I'm going to call it a retro CZ75, and they're putting what they call the post B triggers in it, which gives you a drop safety, which the original guns did not have a drop safety. So that's a nice feature. That means, I'm assuming that means you can also put post B trigger groups in it, or in my case, I want a hammer, because they got the spur hammer, and CZ75s bite the shit out of me, just like a lot of guns do, because I got a real meaty hand.
Mm-hmm.
So that interests me, even though I think they were quoting $1,300 or $1,400.
Is it a limited run? Is it like a wait list, or will they just be out everywhere?
I think it's just going to come out, and better buy one when they show up if you want one.
Okay.
See, there was another bit of neat engineering, was HM Defense peak pressure reservoir and booster.
You know, I didn't understand. I saw that you had posted that, but I didn't even understand what I was looking at.
I figured I was going to have to explain this one. So they put they put a chamber. Well, after the chamber where the cartridge goes in, they machined out a big hollow area in front of the chamber.
It's like
a little bit. It's past the neck. It's past where the bullets is engraved into the rifling. So it's down in the rifling a bit.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they're trying to simulate a bigger case than the cartridge actually has. So let's take a 5.56, for example. You only have so much case capacity to stuff powder into it. So what their idea is to take that same case and put a slower burning powder in it. And normally when you'd fire that, a lot of that powder would just go out the end of the barrel and make a big flash and not really give any more oomph to the bullet. So what happens with this chamber is it fires the bullet, and the bullet passes the chamber, and that powder expands. It's trying to burn. It expands into that chamber and gives it a little bit of
a little bit more dwell time.
Exactly. A little bit of dwell time, and that powder gets to be burning, and it makes it like the cartridge case is bigger and the bore diameter is bigger. So you can get a slower burning powder to give you more oomph in a bore diameter that normally wouldn't do it. So I thought that was a neat deal. I'm not going to say it's going to work fantastic or will ever be in civilian hands or anyone's hands, because to me, I would think that erosion where that bullet jumps and clogging up that area, plus the manufacturing problems of that chamber, may be hard.
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, but okay, so my first appeal, my first thought would be the appeal of this. The goal of this is to try to find a way to compete with 277 Fury, to try to velocitate. I made that word up, but to try to boost so you could, in theory, say like you take like a 5.56, put a different powder in it, technically the same footprint, kind of the same gun. You have to change the barrels, but you could get faster velocity. But then you're in a situation where, especially with like 5.56, that bullet's already going so fast, you're just going to melt those barrels.
Yeah, but then you could bump the bullet weight up. So what's going to happen is it's for people trying to maximize cartridge. You know how everyone's they keep pushing like to 77 grain bullets in the 5.56, and you start losing a lot of velocity, but they're still wanting to shoot 1,000 yards with that heavy bullet. So you go to a slower powder and you put this chamber in there. I actually kind of had this discussion with other people online about this. But yeah, they're like min-maxing a cartridge that you're stuck with, basically, instead of going to a cartridge you should be using. Instead of just saying, well, my 5.56 won't do it. Why don't I step up to 6mm dasher or something like that? Or, where you got a larger bore, a different cartridge case or something along those lines, where you just change to a cartridge case more suited but you're stuck with a smaller case. Therefore you change the barrel parameters. Will it ever be commercially acceptable? I don't know. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I think that's maybe competition stuff, but especially something that's like full auto.
It's a niche area, that's for sure. It'll never be a general wide use type deal, but it'll be a niche type.
How did you find out about that? Don't tell me it was TFB. How did you find that one?
It was TFB. Yeah. Okay. I hate to say it, but TFB was getting around to these weird stuff.
I think a lot of I'd say the internet firearms news groups, I think they do a real good job of covering SHOT Show. Like I personally, because as someone who used to go to have to work SHOT, you kind of felt like if you weren't going, you were missing out. And now I feel like, as opposed to 15, 18 years ago, it's almost like the equivalent of you can see more of the football game at home on TV because the cameras and everything the coverage is so much better than it is if you're sitting in the stadium. And I feel like SHOT Show's kind of the same way.
Right. The last SHOT Show I went to was the one when it came to Houston, which that was 90s, early 90s.
When I first started working SHOT, it was still it was alternating between Tampa and Las Vegas. So I don't know when that was. Was that probably 2000
Yeah, that was after Houston. I know that.
2007, 2008 maybe?
And yeah, SHOT Show is a grind to get around to see everything, and then you're still going to miss stuff.
Yeah, and that's you attending. I mean,
yeah, right.
Like if you're actually, if you're working a booth, I mean, like we had to get there. We were flying in Sunday, or and trucks are coming in. Then we have to set up, and then we have to man the booths. And then we have to do the teardown. Well, we had people to help with teardown, but like setting up and doing everything, like I would be at SHOT Show before it opened to the public. And it was like, you're there all week. And it was a huge grind. And then still trying to work deals or have meetings with people or go see something. But the thing is too, I guess there's a lot of people, I will say this, if you ever go to SHOT Show, and, a lot of people dip out on Friday because you'll see a lot of vendors, they start to pack up and leave, and by Friday morning, they're gone. By Friday afternoon, a lot of them have already left. But what ends up happening is on Friday, especially if you're a vendor, you'll have, I call it like the swap meet. You'll get a lot of vendors who start making trades with other vendors or giving things away because they don't want to bring all the crap home. And so we would end up with all kinds of things and relationships with companies because we'd give them whatever and they would give us stuff, and we ended up all kinds of things, which kind of, it was kind of neat, different than I guess the experience of the average person who went to SHOT Show. So, but was it financially worth it versus the time and energy? No. I mean, it was just been cheaper to just buy it, but it was like, no, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't miss SHOT Show. I should probably I'm starting to maybe consider going again, but I would just go as a, just someone walking around. Like I'm not working a booth or anything. So, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but then you'd have to grow a long beard and wear flannel.
Oh, we'll see now. I mean, hey, look, I'll wear flannel. Hey, look, we're about having 20 inches of snow here. So, I mean, we've had 14 and 5 more coming today. Like, I mean, flannel works out great, but no, I'm like, actually what I used to I remember this was, this reminded me of this. So you'll see videos of, Ian McCollum when he did some videos, and you saw him and he's wearing a suit or a sport coat. And when I worked SHOT Show, and there's some people listening to this that had been there with me or know, and everyone would go in 511 pants and wilderness belts and whatever tactical, whatever, vests and whatever. And I remember getting on an airplane going to Vegas, and you turn and you look down the plane, and everybody on the plane's wearing khaki and this and 511 because the whole plane's going to Vegas. And it's almost like, yeah, we're all on a plane to Syria. And I'm wearing a suit. And I always made it a point to wear a sport coat to SHOT Show and not wear the 511 whatever and all that. I always dressed well. And what that did is that did two things for me. One, it gave me a lot of credibility when dealing with people that didn't know me. But two, if I needed to run around and see people, I remember, I don't want to name the company, but there was a company, very well-known company, and the CEO of the company wanted to meet me. He wanted to talk about something for this group from the government, and I was the point of contact, and this was a very, very, very popular company. And so you would get anywhere near this booth, and it was like 5 dudes deep and all these people standing around. And I could see the CEO of this company working the booth, his booth and his employees. And I didn't even get all the way back in there. And I just stood back, my arms crossed. I'm wearing a suit. Everybody else is wearing whatever, like they're freaking going to Syria or some shit. And I'm just looking at him, put my eyes on him, looking at him. And finally he looks up, he makes eye contact, and he sees me. Then he's, yo, that guy, get him over here. And I remember some people, they coming out to get me, and some of the 511 wearing people, literally, I heard them say some shitty things behind my back. They're like, who the fuck does that guy think he is? And it's like, well, asshole. Well,
he's the guy with the suit.
Yeah, I'm the guy that, I'm easy to spot in a crowd of you guys. I wear the 511 pants when we're training the cops, burning their hands off with the P7s. But, when I'm walking around, SHOT Show, I'm wearing a suit. And here's the funny thing. I'm wearing the suit, and I've got a full-size gun and 2 reloads and everything else on me. And, you may have some little pocket rocket tucked into up your anus somewhere, but I'm actually more armed than you are. Like, just the whole scenario when you start looking at it objectively was so bizarre.
I had to mute my mic when you described the plane.
That's fine.
I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to mute the mic.
No, maybe I said too much. So, all right.
Let's see. A couple other things. B. Myers had the MILR heavy weapons laser. It's basically, just a laser system for your night vision or whatever for heavy weapons. But what I guess what got me on this was it had different ranging. So, you set your laser up, it's for one range only when you put it on a rifle. And on a rifle, you can put it at 100 yards and you pretty much covered everything you can see with night vision. Mm-hmm. But with the heavy weapons, they'll either have bigger night vision on there or whatever. So you got more bullet drop. And I thought it was just funny that somebody finally figured out that you need to have a laser that will shift for different ranges.
Yeah. I mean, that seems
it's just it seems intuitive, but it took until 2026 for somebody to sell one. Then there was Murdoch and Company SA-80 rifle clones that they're building here in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, you and I talked about that online, and I guess I misunderstood. I thought they were converting AR-180s.
That's a different company. Else. Yeah, that was for the Brownells with AER-18 simulated uppers for AR-16 or for AR-15s. So that was a whole lower that they were strapping it onto. You made a simulated SA-80, but it wasn't these are as exact copies as you're going to get obviously semi-auto only though. But I thought it was pretty neat. Yeah, I've always kind of wanted the LSW, which is the light assault weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Or
their assault.
Light support weapon, which is it's a long barrel and has the bipod and has this I-beam that sticks out underneath the barrel to hold the bipod at the end of it.
Yeah, I've seen them.
So I've always, you know me, I've got kind of a kink with LMGs, so that was the one that's interested me, and they had that model there. So I'm hoping they come in.
Does that gun with the light support weapon, does it have a quick change barrel like the AUG does?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Not as far as I know, but I don't think it does. It's just a standard heavier, longer barrel. How much
did you see any prices from Murdoch
and company? Not. I did not see any prices on that.
Do you think it's a $3,000 gun, or you think it's a $12,000 gun?
I'm guessing it's going to be $3,000 to $5,000 type gun.
If it was $3,000, I'll absolutely buy one. If it's under $5,000, if I can find one, I mean, I guess I have to get on the list. But I mean, I don't want to spend $8,000 or $12,000 on it. I'd rather get a semi-automatic saw.
That's out of my range too, so, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. Something that was kind of a backroom show was the retro Colt MARS being done by Monty LeClaire over at Centurion Arms. That's
I know who he is.
Yeah, so do I. He's a stoner owner.
Okay. So is that the belt fed?
No, that's a 5.56 by 30 carbine where what Colt did in the 90s is they cut that lower receiver and shortened the mag well and shortened the upper receiver, front to back shortening it, so that the whole gun was shorter. I mean, the whole operating system was shorter overall. And what they did, they took the 5.56 case and shrunk it from 45 millimeters in length down to 30. And they were using Magnum pistol powders instead of rifle powders. And they were getting the same velocity as you get with a standard 5.56 out of a 20-inch barrel. They were doing it out of I'm not sure how long the barrel is. I think it's a 10.5 or 11-inch barrel. They were getting that.
Really?
Yes. With a 5.56 55 grain bullet, they were getting the same velocity.
Was there a barrel life issue on that, or like a?
Well, I'm
burn it.
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Once again, it's a pistol powder that they were experimenting with. There's a video by military Mac and Small Arms Solutions.
Yeah,
they did a video together. That. Yeah, they did a video together, and Chris Bartucci goes into the history of the Colt MARS, which is, to me, it's very interesting to see that and how Colt basically squashed what became everyone was wanting to order them, but Colt was afraid that it would cut into their market for the M4s. So,
yeah.
But Monty LeClaire is basically, he's dedicated to making those. And I've been on the waiting list since last year, so I knew about it early.
Okay.
So I think that's still going to be like a $3,000 gun around there.
So he's going to do a limited run.
I'm not sure if it's limited or he's just going to keep making them. But
what about the ammo?
You're going to have to reload to start with, but he's dedicated trying to get people to reload that ammo too, or to load that ammo, I should say. So we'll see.
Huh. That seems like, I mean, just from an economic standpoint, I question this. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I guess I'm contradicting myself. I question as to how viable that is as a business. Like, who's that for? Like, for you and maybe me, but more you.
Yeah, is it going to be a big, giant, market-wide type thing? Probably not, but I don't know. Monty's dedicated to it, so more power to him. I'd love to see guns like this that should have been brought to market but never were brought to market by other people.
Sure, so. Absolutely. I mean, maybe Colt wouldn't be in such, have such a bad history if they had, did you see the video? Just as an aside, because you mentioned Chris Bartucci, did you see the video he did on General Keys from Colt?
I started watching it and I didn't have time at the time, so I have not finished it at this point.
I actually left a comment on the video because I expected. I'm going to say something here that's probably not going to go over well with a lot of group of people. There's two companies that I have felt, mainstream companies, that for an extended period of time have been run piss poorly from a business perspective as a business person. One of them is H&K. H&K, I've said this publicly, so I don't want to rehash it here. So poorly run, such dumb decisions for so long, and then ended up, having such financial troubles that it's criminal, like malfeasance as far as how the decisions that they made is, in their executive team and their board, it's insane. No other company would tolerate that. And then you look at Colt, and they're not that far off.
Oh no,
the decisions Colt made, and Chris Bartucci, he does a video on General Keys, and because Chris is a big Colt fan and he knew General Keys, I expected him to whitewash that, and to Chris's credit, he did not. He told the truth.
Oh, okay.
About and I was impressed. I was like, that video really impressed me because Chris told the truth as opposed to just kissing his friend's ass.
For those that don't know, Chris Bartucci is the author of Black Rifle 2. And I think he did a third one too.
Yeah, I think he's got another one out. So he's down near you somewhere, right? He's down there
He's
in
in
Texas.
The Houston area as well, yes. Okay,
yeah.
We haven't met. I've never met him personally, but yeah, he is in the Houston area.
Okay. But that video is worth watching just because I was really impressed with the integrity that he demonstrated on how he told that story. I was like, wow, okay. Because I expected a eulogy, which is fine in church.
But yeah, history needs to be told.
Yeah, that was definitely worth. That's definitely a video worth watching if you want to understand a little bit how Colt is, where they are, and why they're now a subsidiary of CZ at this point. So all right, so
there's also your favorite fish hook, the Spaz 12.
Now I've heard different things on this gun. I've heard, for the record, the Spaz 12 we have does not have that folding stock on it. We have a real stock on ours.
So you got
I've
a cheap
heard that
one.
gun's not a copy.
No, it is not. Supposedly, I have heard that the inside is completely Turk auto shotgun, and the outside was basically a clone of the Spaz 12. The fish gaff type stock and everything.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is going to hurt some feelings, but inside of that gun being a clone of a Turkish semi-automatic shotgun is an improvement over the Spaz 12. I get it. We have a Spaz 12. I've shot it. I haven't shot it in a while. It's a moment in time. It's a good reference gun. It's cool. I understand pride of ownership. But if you want to understand how bad that gun is, go to a real shotgun class, and with your Spaz 12, I don't care what stock you put on it. My advice would be a straight stock, not the folding fishhook stock. Go to a real shotgun class, and you will be in serious trouble very quickly with that gun.
See, now you're making me use the damn mute button again.
Why? You don't have. You can just laugh. You can, this isn't the Smithsonian. Like, we can just talk. I mean, this shooting guns having fun. Like, I mean, come on.
I didn't want to interrupt you though. You're going so well.
No, I mean, it's like, the Spaz 12 is, Terrible. Like
if anyone wants to know more about the Spaz 12, find a copy of the Gun Test magazine. Unfortunately, I had the number of the magazine. I've lost it somewhere. But Gun Test was a magazine that was put out that tested guns. They went out and bought them at the local gun store, and then would test them and tell the truth. And the Spaz 12 review became legendary because it was such a piece of junk on what happened to that gun when they tested it.
If anybody listening to this has a copy of Gun Test magazine with the Spaz 12 review, please reach out, podcast@john1911.com. Send me photographs of the article, and we will publish those photographs. We'll try to get it reprinted up into the comments section on the website so you can read it. Oh, is Gun Test magazine still around? They're not going to sue me, are they?
They have a website, and I think they're still publishing testing that they're doing. And on that website, I was able to find the number of the not the year, but what are they in? They're in the number of the magazine that they posted the Spaz 12 in. But I wrote it down somewhere and I can't find it right now.
Okay. Well, I will go to Gun Test magazine's website, and if I can find, if they've got it archived, I will publish a link. I'll take a screen grab of it, then I'll publish a link.
I could not find an archived copy there.
Update, restate. If you have a copy of Gun Test magazine, send me photo. Literally, you don't have to be fancy with PDFs. Just send me high-res photographs from your phone. Every phone's got high-res. And just, if the email server won't take the high-res photograph, I will send you we'll exchange a link so you can, and we'll get it up there, and, we'll go ahead and get that, into the comment section for the listener at home. So, so Spaz 12. Yeah. Well, but you know what? But this is, I'm glad you brought this up, because this is actually a good point, because we talked about this earlier. We kind of hinted around the idea, the Spaz 12 on paper, especially as a police shotgun, seems like a really good idea. And you're like, why? If people don't understand, the Spaz 12 is a semi-automatic that you can convert to a pump. Why would you want to do that? Typically, you would want to do that for specialty rounds for law enforcement, beanbag rounds, rubber balls, just all kinds of stuff that may not cycle reliably in your semi-automatic, but you can control. You can control them with the pump, and then you can single feed them. You don't have to worry about even if you get it to run in your semi-auto, you want to change from less lethal to lethal, which isn't really something that we do in America anymore with shotguns. But just there's in theory with the Spaz 12, there's more control.
Well, it also allows you to build a shitty semi-auto. You build a shitty semi-auto and make it a pump all of a sudden. Yeah.
But also, good luck trying to load a Spaz 12 I'm just telling you, good luck. If you don't have three hands, that gun sucks ass. Actually, we've got the Spaz 12, and we even have the semi-auto, just the Law 12, which is the semi-auto one.
Is that the AR-15-ish looking one? Or is that the Spaz 17 or something like that?
It's called the Law 12. Yeah, you're thinking of the Spaz 15, which I think is a is it, or maybe I'm thinking Daewoo.
No, you're right. Spaz 15. Once you said it, that came to me.
And isn't that one considered a destructive device, or there's some hook with that one too?
Well, they never made magazines that were. I remember when they started running 3-gun competitions. Some guys started trying to weld the magazines together to make a bigger magazine, because I think the biggest magazine they ever made was 5 rounds. So they were trying to weld a bunch of 5-rounders into a stack to make a bigger mag so they could game the system instead of having the underbarrel tubes stick out 3 feet past the barrel.
Yeah.
So it was a neat looking, of course, the Spaz people always were sitting there trying to make something that looked neat, but didn't necessarily perform worth a damn.
Well, you know what? If they could just hook up with the Blecher people, and then the Belcher people and the Spaz people, they can get it, man, we can have $1 billion business here. Make caseless Spaz shotguns. You know what? That might be the title. Caseless Spaz shotguns could be the trick. That's going to end up being the title. So, well, I'm getting the stink eye from somebody here at the office that we may end up having to evacuate the building. They may want to have to turn off the power here shortly. So, is there anything else you got from SHOT that you absolutely want to mention, or honorable?
I saw that you mentioned the M84, the Yugo copy of the PKM that's supposedly going to be semi-auto come in.
Yeah, that I'll tell you what, and you got to take that with a grain of salt. But the price he was quoting, that the representative from that company that they were targeting for semi-auto in the U.S., I thought it was very competitive.
I didn't even see what was the price. I didn't even get a chance to watch that yet.
He was thinking under $6. They were trying for $5.
If they can come up with an FRT trigger for that, I bet you they'd sell the hell out of it.
You know what? Let me ask you, because I want to ask this, because I want to talk about this. So I'm kind of just now, obviously, opening my eyes to FRT, like Grandpa with the VCR. Like, I'm like, oh my God, FRT, what is this? What is this fancy technology? So with FRTs being like, they seem to almost be everywhere, but you haven't seen the major gun companies. I'm waiting, like, I don't know, in 2027, is Geisley coming out with an FRT? The world wonders. Like, maybe, at some point, is one of these Timony, Geisley, whomever companies going to be like, we're missing out here. We got to start making FRTs. But if that happens, at what point do the libs basically go, we're going to ban all belt-fed guns?
I don't know. That I think the belt-fed guns are not very numerous, so I'm not sure that's going to really play much into it. That, and they're so damn expensive usually. Of course,
but if they're not numerous. And
that's true. Expensive. If the Yugo comes in at the price he was saying, holy crow, that will make it come in.
But, the whole argument is, like, one of the arguments that they made when they were getting rid of machine gun, when they passed the Hughes Amendment, was these things are not common, they're expensive, and there's such a limited user base for them that we can go ahead and compromise on this or go ahead and get rid of them, and it's not going to be a big deal. And I do wonder... And here's the thing, too. Like, me saying, oh, don't give them ideas, Marky. I'm not giving anybody any ideas. I mean, they've got plenty of smart people on the other side of this issue that know how guns work. And I just can't help but wonder if belt feds are going to be on the chopping block at some point. Like, there's an argument to be made if FRTs are here to stay, that anything belt fed is about to become very valuable.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Semi-automatic belt feds, all of a sudden now, are very interesting.
I tell you what, if you're wanting one of those PKM copies, you better start buying 7.62 54R up right now.
I still want one of the 249Ss. I thought for sure FM was going to get rid of that yet, and they haven't yet, but... there is an FRT in testing out for that right now. So I've heard that.
Those I think will take off. And most people look at that gun and say, 12,000 or 10,000. I guess it's 10 grand now. 10 grand for one of those. Well, that's kind of stupid. It's just semi-automatic belt fed, but you stick an FRT on it and get trigger slapped into auto.
Yeah, I think we're definitely an undiscovered country when it comes to this and FRTs. Like, what it's going to, it's belt feds and FRTs is, at that point you've cracked open the NFA, like you've just destroyed it. Because, the whole point of a belt fed is suppression and beaten zones. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you know what I mean. Like, you're not trying to, the things that people would criticize an FRT for on a 0 to 300 kind of, and where you're measuring stuff one of your marketing materials is an MOA measurement on paper, from how machine gun bell feds are used.
I get the most enjoyment out of using, my LMGs, my full auto registered ones, for shooting on steel out at long range and get like a 3-round burst onto a human-sized target out at.
I may have lost you there. Hold on.
Okay.
Say that again.
I said I enjoy using LMG.
I think it's my internet here, but the thing is, it's recorded local, so reconnecting.
I've lost you.
Okay, well, this wraps up episode 394 of the John 1911 podcast. You want to see more stories or pictures, links, or everything we discussed? Please go to the website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good afternoon.